Well, Music Rising was started by a bunch of people who all had the same idea at the same time, which is that the New Orleans tragedy was a twofold tragedy. It was a tragedy because of the fact that this great city was so devastated, but it was a tragedy because of the incredible music culture that was also destroyed. So Bob Ezrin, Henry Juskowicz from Gibson, Marty Albertson from the Guitar Center, myself, and Music Cares all collaborated on forming Music Rising, which was dedicated to getting instruments back into the hands of musicians who'd lost their instruments. And so far, we've been able to reach 1,300 musicians from this area. So we're really happy about that. And walking around Jazz Fest, I met 4 or 5 of them who just came up to me, shook my hand and said, "Thanks for the amp, man. Thanks for the horn. Thanks for the guitar," whatever it was. So, you know, I'm meeting people on the street who actually received the instruments and the equipment. And, you know, it's wonderful that it's working out, and we were able to act and move so fast. But on this trip, we also went down to the lower 9th Ward and the St. Bernard Parish, and I have to say I was so shocked. I was so devastated at how little has changed. And, you know, these are the centers of music in New Orleans. The French Quarter is where the tourists go. It's where the clubs are. Or where the music resides is in back parlors and churches and music centers around these districts of New Orleans. And these places have not changed since Katrina. I mean, for all of the money, the effort that the powers that be have tried to apply, there's been zero benefit down there. And, you know, it's a tragedy unfolding, because if these areas don't get regenerated, music culture in this area is not going to come back, because that is where it resides. So we are now changing our focus somewhat, and we want to try and focus on these areas and try and get people motivated to get these areas to be regenerated as a priority, and get the churches back up and running, because that's where the music culture resides. Every kid goes to church in New Orleans. That's where they first get exposed to music. You talk to any of the great players, they all talk about the churches. And what can I say? You know, if you've been here for Jazz Fest, you get a sense of how unique the music is down here. We've got to do something.
Tell us about your experience here this past weekend with Preservation Hall and playing last night with Dave Matthews. It's been kind of a special weekend for you.
It's been an amazing weekend. It's been one of the best weekends I can remember, and it's been full of surprises, and it's been full of incredible, rich musical experiences, some of which have been, as you described, going on stage with Dave Matthews, which was amazing. One of the highlights was just seeing Bruce Springsteen go through some rehearsal of his new album and with his new band, which is unbelievable. And some of them have been like the craziest, like going on stage in this tiny little bar last night, playing Stand By Me with Glenn Andrews, who's from the New Birth brass band, and just incredible, because this town is all about music. It's going on in every corner, and so for me to come here, you know, and just to be able to dip in and see what's going on here and there, and just to get a sense of how rich the music culture is here, it's just been so inspiring, and it just further reinforces everything I've felt. You know, I don't want to go on and on about it, but what I've understood really so clearly from my visit is how multi-generational it is here. You know, there's little kids who are learning about music because their older siblings or their fathers are teaching them, and they learned from their grandfather, you know, from their fathers. So it goes 3, 4, 5 generations of musicians all handing it down, and you can see that, you can sense it. And wherever we've gone during this few days, wherever there's been music going on, you see hope, you see people's spirits rising up, and you see a tangible, real tangible effect on everything. And I can't stress enough how important it is to get the music happening again in New Orleans.
One last question. I also went to the Ninth Ward yesterday, and it's a bit overwhelming. You really don't want to see anything like that ever again. What's the key from just feeling depressed and thinking it's impossible to do anything to change it? You can make a difference.
You know, I think you got to focus on what's achievable. You got to focus on the important issues. And for the lower Ninth Ward, obviously, it's an unbelievable task to deal with that amount of devastation. But you've got to break it down. It's about individual families. It's about people who have a right to go back to their homes. And if you just it's just about the people.
What you're doing, Music Rising, certainly helps a lot. Thank you for talking to us. Thanks a lot.